Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero. Our guest today is Chandra Lynn. She's the founder of Glow Marketing and Glow Living, where she puts her unique combination of experiential capabilities to work for some of the highest level performing individuals and their companies. She's got a BA in communications with a minor in management from Sonoma State, go Seawolves, and an MBA from Golden Gate University, where she subsequently returned as an instructor. She also has a coaching certification from the Tony Robbins Chloe Madonna Center for Strategic Intervention. She's held positions covering a wide range of functions in branded entertainment at companies like Avid, Bill Graham Presents, Live Nation, New Bay Media, San Francisco Magazine, and Cumulus Media. That array of experience and training gives her the unique ability to mentor and coach a founder or chief exec to maximize his or her performance, then lead or assist with strategic planning for product launch or marketing campaigns, and then as the mission gets up to speed, handle the PR, promotions, artist relations, event planning, lead or coordinate fan or consumer engagement and social media marketing, all the way to audio and video production or design and illustration. She's done it to remarkable success with entrepreneurs, creators, and corporations like Apple, Autodesk, DigiDesign, Tyra Banks, Irene Cara, our friend Joe Solo, Smart Cars, and the Wine Group, among many, many more. She's also introduced us to some of our favorite guests to include Tim Kelley, Dave Aude, and Andy Summers. She's helped all of these folks and their companies to launch endeavors, accelerate their successes, and create lasting, memorable impressions. Now, as always, if you like what we're doing, bringing you the stories and insights of performance optimizers like Chandra, I'm going to ask you to support the Break It Down show with just a little activity, and it'll take you just a minute. I'm asking you to subscribe on whatever platform you're hearing us through now, and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever, and write us a little review. I'm not asking you to take us to the next level like Chandra does with her clients and their businesses. Just drop us a few words and bump that digital needle for us just a little. Also, quick reminder, Pete's doing the Coronado Seal Memorial Swim on Saturday, September 21st. That's just a couple of weeks from now. The event benefits the families of naval special warfare operators who have made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country and our freedom to do stuff like this podcast. This organization and the families in it deserve our support, so we give it, and we hope you do too. You'll find them at SEALVeteransFoundation.org. Once again, SEALVeteransFoundation.org. Visit the website just to see what they're about and donate a few bucks if you can. And now, we're really excited to bring you our special guest today. We're really huge admirers of hers and very grateful for the folks she puts in front of us. Here's Chandra Lynn.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hello, this is Chandra Lynn, the founder of Glow Living, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yeah, this is perfect. So Chandra and I have, for a while now, been working on several different music-based clients and the Break It Down show. And we thought, let's get Chandra on because what you do is fascinating. You work with so many wonderful musicians. You've helped us get Andy Summers. We have a mutual connection to Joe Solo, who just won an award. We can talk about that. But you also helped us get Dave Aude and
Tim Kelley.
Yeah, the list goes on. And we're getting other people lined up too. So first off, thank you so much for sharing those people with us. It's great to be able to hear their stories. And, you know, one of the things I've learned as I've grown in this show is that people like Tim Kelley, who's, successful enough that Beyonce would call him to work on her music, right? Isn't a master of everything. You know, he's so great at music, he needs help with things like PR and marketing. And I don't think people realize how hard it is for someone to master each of these things at a high level and do even simple things correctly. One of my very good friends is Jay Moore. And if you watch his life internally, you're like, gosh, you really don't know how to do a lot of basic things because he's never had to do them. And it's not a hit on Jay. Jay's job is to be incredibly funny, to act, and to move people. And so he focuses there, and other people help him with the other aspects of life.
Absolutely. I mean, first, I want to say thank you so much for all of your support of my clients. And then when I pitched you on the idea of actually having me on the show, and you were so receptive to it after getting to know more about me, I mean, it's really been kind of a dream come true to be able to have these type of opportunities. And I think that what really comes out of it is that we do need each other, right? We need each other. And that's why somebody like Tim Kelley or some of my other clients have contacted me, because they recognize that, well, what they do, they're experts at, and they want to be able to focus on that. And what they don't do well, they need to bring in the best that they can bring in for those aspects. And so in that situation, that they, I was just, I guess, fortunate enough to be contacted by them because of my reputation being in the industry so long.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because there's so much flash expertise, which is a word that I've just made up right now. Hey, this is Pete. Real quick, I just want to let you guys know we are proud to announce our official support of Save the Brave, a certified nonprofit 501c3 with a charter of helping veterans with post-traumatic stress. Here's how you can help. Go to SaveTheBrave.com, click on the link on the website, and my recommendation is this. Subscribe. Give them $20 a month. You've got subscriptions that you can turn off right now that you're not using that are $20 a month. Swap that out. Get involved. Let's help these folks out. Flash expertise, which is a word that I've just made up right now. But, you know, like, I'm a marketing expert, Instagram pro, and like, dude, you have 25 followers, you know? and
right.
Even if you've got 2 million followers, it doesn't mean that you're a pro. It might mean a lot of things. So how does one really, I mean, this is, you know, we're establishing your bona fides. How do you get someone like Andy Summers to work with you? What is it about your reputation? How did you build it? All those things.
Oh, I think in one word, I can sum that up as relationships. You know, I think that what it is that I don't look so much at the analytics of the numbers and all that. I look at the quality of the relationships and how authentic they are. You know, I really think that that's maybe what sets me apart is the realness of it, that people in the industry understand that, you know, I'm the kind of person that cares about them, you know, and wants their success. So I'm a connector. So I find ways to help people be successful, whether I'm the one to help them or not. And I don't really go in with kind of an egoic, like, what can I get out of this? And in fact, I've coached a lot of people in the industry who want to network at things like the NAMM show and, you know, all these other opportunities, to lead with, what can I do to help you, as opposed to, you know, focusing on how they can help them in those initial meetings. So when people see that I'm the kind of person that genuinely wants to help them, that is authentic, that will be honest about whether I can come up with, you know, something that delivers. I mean, that's the other thing, is that there's times when I will tell them honestly that it's not me, that I'm not the right fit. And I think that just grows trust over time, because if it's not me, I might know someone and then they have a good experience with that person. Just like how you and I started, you know, you started building trust in me because of the people I was delivering and how well they did for you and the show. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. I mean, in general, you know, we'll just use Andy as an example. Andy's a pro. He knows what to do, but he does have a reputation of being a little bit hard to deal with in an interview, you know? So you're putting us in a position where, you know, Andy's not going to fail, but it's tough. He's a challenging interview. And so we spent a lot of time prepping for that. And I'll say this, I think there's not a better interview of Andy Summers in the last 25 years, because we didn't say, amazing. When are the police getting together? You know, we led with, he's an artist, he's a photographer. And yeah, we talk about the police a little bit, just like anybody would talk about a highlight in their life. Like, yeah, 25, 35, 40 years ago, I did this thing, you know, but now I'm about this. We talked much more about where he was on the frontier of art. And he's like, I have no peer. I'm way over here all by myself, because he's really on the edge of it. And that's much more what he wants to talk about. And that's pro level stuff. Like, for the fans that want to hear the same story about Andy Summers, go somewhere else. We're going to give you the new Andy. And I think with that, we were able to get Andy to a different spot and display for you and for him that, you know, we really want to know more about him as opposed to like what he did a long time ago. And that I knew with him built trust. There was a respect for, the fact that he's answered those questions 1,000 times. And you now can know, hey, these guys aren't just going to bore my client to tears. He can go to unannounced, end up at Andy's house because the logistics got all screwed up, and walk out with Andy very happy. I mean, that's what we all want out of this whole thing.
Well, yeah, and that's how I got to see how professional you guys are, and I think that what happened with Andy is that he does get really excited to work with people that, of course he understands that there's going to be police talk, but that also see him as a multidimensional person. And I got him recently an article in Psychology Today about synesthesia, and he was so excited about that. And then I presented him with an opportunity to be on the cover of Guitar Player, and it seemed like, of course he's excited about that too, but that initially he was more excited about the Psychology Today thing because it's so different. And I think we do get to that point in our careers where, we want to do something different. And I think that's part of the reason why I've started to make a career pivot for myself as well.
Yeah. No, that
I'm
makes
still
a lot
doing
of
the marketing and PR, as you know, I'm still representing clients. It's just that I decided after all these years that it's time for me to develop my own brand. I've been behind the scenes and promoting brands, and I'm like, I can do this too. And I have something to say. And it does have to do with this idea of, connecting with your authenticity and, being able to build relationships that support you to meet your goals and live to your highest potential. So that's why I started getting more into life coaching and working with artists to do that as great examples, and then bringing it out to the general public.
Yeah. I mean, this is the key thing here, because I want folks to understand that when you deal with these high-end people, like Dave Aude has over 100 number one hits in dance tracks. We've all heard his music. But again, that doesn't mean that his life is 100% settled. Like you bring a massive work where you've dealt with all of these different significant artists, and you've seen their struggles and their successes. And in essence, a lot of times you're a life coach, and I do the same thing where I talk about the straw on a camel's back with people people ask me questions all the time because I have a lot of insight. And I look, before you get to the straw that breaks the camel's back, why don't you inventory your straw? And anything that has anything to do with hate, try to put it down. And then if you have to have that much straw on your back, put some joy straw on your back, or some awe, or some wonder, or time with friends. Like if you're going to carry a lot of weight, carry a weight that makes you happy, that you can see. You must have stories like that where you're dealing with artist X, and you're like, if you would just change this one thing or change your perception of something, you would release a lot of this anxiety and this weight.
It's interesting that you say that. I mean, first of all, you are a natural coach. And I think that, I certainly have identified that in you the last few times that we've talked, that we're of the same tribe, so to speak, because even the language, when you talked about being in a state of wonder, that kind of thing, that is kind of, along the lines of how I do coach people is, looking at those types of things. And so I would say, first of all, that yes, I see you as being a potential coach. And when I identified that in myself, I decided, I'm not going to just do this without more training, because we are talking about real people's lives here that, are affected by it. And I feel like they would start to come to me for these things. And so I went and got a certification. And part of that was just personal interest. I still had my marketing business, and I didn't really think about coaching in terms of, I'm going to do this to make money. I did it because I was developing myself, and I thought I'd be in greater service to my clients, and knowing that, it wasn't just the artist, it could be CEOs to these, music instrument manufacturers that I was working with, and they were asking me about strategy. But then after that after we discussed that, then some of their life stuff, started naturally coming in. And I thought, wow, I can be of even greater service if I can help them in those areas too. And so that, I think, really set me apart as far as what I was offering. Although it started to be a little bit muddy, as too, like, what is she, a life coach, or is she a marketing person. And I decided, I don't just want to be the marketing and PR chick. I don't want to run around NAM and go, yeah, she's the PR chick. No, I really wanted to be seen for offering something more meaningful, and not that it's not meaningful, but just more personally meaningful and richer. And so people that got to know me through these genuine relationships I was talking about were able to start to see that in me and value that and utilize my services in a different way. So that's been exciting. But as far as some of these stories are, I mean, obviously I can't talk about specific people, but what I can tell you is things like road life, do bring up a lot of issues because there's balance problems. So I started to look at developing programs around live-work balance, because when people are out of balance, all kinds of stuff goes wrong. When you're on the road and just for example, with relationships, they may need more than anybody else the stability of having somebody at home, because that's their certainty, their security, that's where that's coming from. And having that tether allows them to venture in the world and have all that variety and uncertainty and excitement. That gives them that balance to have both. But in the inner workings of that balance, also there's a lot of challenges because of the needs of the other person who's at home, who only gets to see them sporadically, and how to develop the depth to those relationships. So I felt like I was starting to coach a lot around relationship issues. And then it also, I'd visit these guys on tour, or they'd come through town and I'd see what they're drinking and eating on the tour bus or backstage or whatever. And they would start to go, God, I've gained weight since I've been out here. Like they'd talk about their health, how they have to have a lot of stamina, to be able to be on the road that long. Yeah. And I just naturally start talking about fitness and healthy living. And as all these kind of things started coming out in these conversations, I started realizing how valuable it would be for me to launch something like Glow Living that gives them the support in the areas of, their key root areas, which the root system, I call it, which are their career, their family, their health, their own personal health and fitness, what's happening with their friend group and their relationships and so forth. And so that's when I developed Root to Rise, which is my online course that people can go through DIY or with me as a part of a membership community to get the support that they need to balance their lives.
Right. Right. When I do my, I'm doing my quotey fingers coaching, but I give a lot of counsel on things, partly because I've seen the world from a lot of different perspectives. When folks want to know what sucks, I'm like, here's what sucks. You don't have this problem, so be glad that you're at where you're at and then build from there or whatever. But I think the main piece of advice I give, and it applies to everything, is just to slow down. We often, especially I'm in my middle age, right? So there's been almost 50 years of neglect in a lot of systems in my life. Like I used to be a lot healthier and fitter and ate better. Well, I'm not putting as good a fuel into my body, and right now I'm injured and I really can't work out. All these things are there, but also you have to manage your relationship and spend time maintaining that, and your relationship with your family, your friends, your kids. All these things require some kind of touch, some kind of effort. And if you just go, work all the time, you're managing, and if not over managing your career, but you're not managing the other aspects of your life that give you this foundation to put your career on top of. I know you must see that, because someone like Tim, he'll sit in the studio for 36 hours straight and then have 12 more hours of sitting there to do after that. So how do you get these elite performers to slow down long enough, or maybe that isn't your main advice? What is your main advice tool that you like to give?
Well, it really certainly is about balancing their root system, because the roots are our foundation for our lives. And it's very hard to expect ourselves to rise to our fullest potential or do anything of note, build that legacy that we have in mind for ourselves when we don't have a solid foundation. And by that, I mean, we're out of balance in these areas. So if you're spending a lot of time in the studio or a lot of time on the road, you have to look at what you're not doing. And if you're avoiding certain things, and what the cost of that is, because something like your own personal health and fitness, unfortunately, that's a pretty extreme example that if you get sick, guess what? You won't be going on the road. You will not be in the studio. You'll be focusing on your health as your number one priority, and everything will fall back. In fact, I did a really great interview with this guy, Rosario Hardim.
Okay.
And he's a drummer for Infected Mushroom. It's online. I can share it with you guys. He got cancer and he had to stop everything. And the band was amazing about it. They basically said, your job is here when you're ready to come back. And they got a temporary drummer and they were super supportive. And he actually beat cancer. And he's back on tour and he created his own album in addition to the band's. I mean, he's like this crazy force to be reckoned with. I mean, such an inspiration. And I got a lot out of interviewing him around that. But what he did say is, yeah, that band was getting, starting to get on fire. And in the middle of all of that, he had to stop the train entirely for himself. And that train had to keep going. But he was able to build such a strong relationship with them. And they were so supportive that, he was able to get his job back. But in some cases, they might have had to say, look, we're at this point in our career where we have to keep going with or without you. And, hard choices have to be made. So and nobody can control whether they get cancer, but they can control whether certain illnesses or falling out of shape or things, happen. There's some things that are within our control. And so, like you said, stopping and looking at that and being honest with yourself and taking time to evaluate and doing some personal growth around what's important to you is basically what Root to Rise is about. It's rooting down, balancing your life, in order to plan your rise and have time for that vision and then put plans into place to be able to work it so that you can ultimately achieve that. And I think there are a lot of people who do not even know what they're striving for. Right. They're just on the train and they don't know whether the train is, going from California to New York or California to Iowa. They don't know. Yeah. And that takes time and space for vision, and it takes time and space for getting past limiting beliefs and blocks that might be holding your train back in ways that you don't even know are going on.
Yeah, no, that's powerful stuff. I mean, that whole, like, you're talking a lot about fear and how fear limits and ego and that kind of thing. I wanted to ask you also about, because look, your world that you work in is full of this, where someone, and I'll use Billy Joel as an example. Billy Joel exits the orbit of his peers that he came up with. Liberty DeVito, wonderful guy, plays drums, but at some point Billy Joel is Billy Joel. And so, he doesn't call Liberty, he doesn't call the other guys in the band, he just moves on. And it's tough to do that. But is it any better or worse than calling Liberty and saying, hey, it's time to go? Like, what if he can't bear to do it? He has to just walk away. These are really hard decisions that people have to make. Britney Spears goes on tour. She knows what she needs to do. She's getting advice on how to continue to do what she does. And she's not going on tour right now, but heck, look at her, right? She's got a mental incapacity that keeps her from actively touring. You have all these things to care for. And sometimes you've got to make what on the surface look like really shitty decisions, but are probably the best way for you as the prime act to go forward, because you can't worry about everybody's feelings. You have your own career to manage, and those things are pretty fragile.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it's interesting you bring this up right now, because I'm about to launch a program that's called the Root to Rise Career Pivot Program. And it's really all about this. It's about, I decided to focus in on one of the roots because there's so much pain around what's happening in people's careers, because of course it's so much a part of their identity, but it's also their financial security. Mm-hmm. And so when I found that when people start at this route and solve some of these problems, then they can transcend a little bit more and get into some of the other areas, because when you're dealing with financial instability, for example, look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're at that base security route, right? You have to make the money. And so many people want to make money doing things that they believe in and that they feel like they're on a mission. But most people are in jobs that they feel like are just jobs. They're not career paths. They're not life missions. They're not higher purpose. And so how do you make those hard decisions to go from a job that you don't like, but brings, you the money, to something that is really meaningful. And so I put a lot of thought into this and what it takes for that transformation to happen. And you hit the nail on the head in a lot of ways, having to really look at these hard decisions and make steps. And it really comes down to taking certain leaps. And I thought about an idea for how people can do that with a little more certainty, validating to a certain degree what they want to move towards to make those decisions. But still, you don't have a crystal ball. There's still a lot of uncertainty. So you have to look at how much uncertainty you're comfortable with, because I do believe that the more comfortable you are with the uncertainties of life and weathering those storms and trusting yourself and being able to know that you're going to be okay at the end of it, gives you that power to step into not only the future, but your full potential and all of who you are authentically, to go towards what it is that you really want to do. But along the way, if you see, I'm kind of questioning myself, maybe I have imposter syndrome, or maybe I have bag lady syndrome, or like there's these things that come up and they're syndromes, as I don't know if they're really like, they're not like a medical condition, but they're common fears that come up in people. So it's worth going, well, this is common, so it isn't necessarily real.
Right.
It's okay that people have these thoughts about themselves and go, well, I'm an imposter. People aren't going to, maybe I don't have as much to offer as this other person, and they get into comparing themselves and whatnot. So like you said, slowing things down enough to even be the observer and recognize that your mind is serving you up these thoughts that are trying to hold you back. And why would it do that? Well, it's doing that to keep you safe, because you may not be happy in this old job doing whatever you're doing, but you're safe, and the brain knows that, right? So it's going to serve up things to keep you safe, when really what's good for your soul is growth. Like, we all need to grow.
Yeah.
We need to grow, right? And so that's not really safe though. So the brain's going to serve those fears up to keep you safe. And that's kind of what my program is setting out to do, is explore that so you can break through that. So you can have some certainty and confidence going into the next steps and saying, okay, there's nobody in the world that's going to tell you whether it's going to be okay, other than your own sense of certainty that if something does come along that's trying to topple down your tree, that that you have the internal strength to be able to take whatever it comes and make it, turn something out of it, into something good.
No, there's a lot in that.
I know. There's a lot. But you were talking about the music, right? Like people having to do this in their career, but it's really, everybody gets to this place where whatever they've been doing may feel like it doesn't fit anymore. Like it just, they've been trying it on and it's just not working.
Yeah.
And so musicians, you can see it because they're visible, and you know these point in times in their career where they made these big decisions that we may or may not understand about their creative direction, or working with certain producers, or having, certain types, maybe even genre shifts, in what kind of music they're putting out in their fans, and they can lose huge, volumes of fans in one fall swoop by putting out an album in a different genre.
Right.
But like, why do they do it? Well, because they're aligning to their own authenticity, or they're trying something on that may or may not work, but like they feel like they need to do for their own evolution.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, again, so many things to bring up from this. Just thinking about the imposter syndrome part of it, dealing with that, understanding that one, that's normal. Like I tell, my girlfriend said this, and I say it too. People suck at people dying. They handle it in different ways. So yeah, someone is going to handle it really poorly. Maybe you're going to handle it poorly. And everybody needs to give each other some space as we all try to sort through something that not only sucks, but is exceptionally hard to do well. So same thing with becoming uber famous, and Uber is what step is that? Like Tim Kelley to me is uber famous. He can go to a party and everybody's be like, oh shit, there's Tim Kelley, Billy Joel is uber famous. There's no manual on that, on how you do your fame, like you're supposed to feel insecure. Like they're all going to find out that I'm not that great at the piano, or that I sing off key, or, there's all these thoughts that are in your head that limit you. And the same thing applies to your day job. If you're someone who's listening, driving across the bridge, looking at Benicia on their way to work. That's where, you know where Benicia is. That's where I'm from. So that person who's like, I really want to do something else, maybe, and I'm setting you up to expand on this. Maybe the person is in maintenance mode in their career, not feeling inspired, and thinks, I want to bake cookies, donuts, cupcakes, whatever it is, right? You don't just slide away and give up the thing you've maintained in your safety. Yeah, that might be the way you go, but maybe you break off time each day and you start to become great at making cookies. Like maybe you love baking, but maybe it's not what you should make money at. Maybe it should just be the thing that settles your soul and allows you to have less suffering at work and more joy when you come home. It's not all sliding all of your chips in, because let me tell you something. When you slide all of your chips in, it's not the chips in your pocket. It's the keys to your car. It's the cable bill that you're not going to be able to pay anymore. It's your credit. All of these things have to go across the line when you bet everything. It really is everything. Your retirement, your future stability and security, all of these things get slid across. Because if you don't do it like that, the people that outwork you and outbet you, they're going to win.
It's interesting. Yeah, when I was listening to you, I was thinking about a couple themes. One is transitions. How do we do with transitions? Yes. Everybody, kind of approaches transitions differently, and it has to do with how much need you have for, feeling security, how comfortable you are with uncertainty, like we talked about. And I think that, if you can find a way to pivot towards the things you hope and dream of doing in a way that doesn't fully challenge your security, but does challenge you as a person in terms of your growth, then that's probably the healthy mix, right? You have to go, okay, yeah, the bills have to be paid. So maybe the transition or the pivot is slower, or it's more methodical, or you have certain steps that have to be taken, as long as you don't put so many steps in front of yourself that you never reach the goal. Like you may know people that are like, well, once I take that class, or once I get that certification, then I can start that. Or once I, lose 10 pounds, then I can start dating. They're always putting something in front of themselves before they go for the goal. And part of that's just more to do to stay in that place of fear, right? Because once you have to step up into that, it's scary. So to maybe think methodically about, well, how are you going to manage your transition? Yeah. Are you the kind of person that just, you're comfortable with risk, you're going to jump all in? Or are you the kind of person who's like, I'm going to have a full plan. I'm going to, go vet this with, my friend who is a, CEO, and he might know how to handle a business plan, or I'm going to hire for these resources, or, yes, have some kind of way of vetting it and validating it. Or, from a marketing standpoint, I'm going to, like, if you're baking cookies, are you starting to sell those on the side and see what the demand is before saying, well, I'm just going to open up the bakery. If people are calling you for these cookie orders all the time, then that justifies that the demand is there, that the need is there. And so you can kind of go into it that way. So I think that it depends on what you're wanting to do and how much risk, how much leap, you're comfortable with. And that's pretty much it, is your comfort level. You have to look at your need for security. It's just something that some people have a lot of. In fact, some people might need $1 million in the bank to feel successful. Right. And other people might be like, I just need to make my monthly net and I'm good. There's different levels of feeling financially secure, for example. And it's the same with other aspects of your life. Like, how much is enough?
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it. Yeah, no, and I think you made a great point with the whole, you have to have a program. It's best that you write it down, but even if you say, like, I have these 3 accomplishments I need to get done, and if you're not getting them done, then that's where your work is. Like, how do I get these 3 things done? If it's Self-Development Friday and you watch YouTube videos on the topic that you're trying to get better at, and you're not doing that, then that's where your work is. Because if you can't master that part of your day, you really can't master being an entrepreneur. Like, you have to constantly knock these things out. And so you build a lean plan. that puts you in a position to make that transition. And maybe your plan isn't great up front, but it will evolve as you go. You're not trying to avoid the work. You're trying to marshal work. And absolutely, I love the idea, and I advise young people all the time to get a mentor and shoot for the stars, because if you come to someone who's on top of whatever it is that you want to do, and you say, I would love you to be my mentor, that person had someone helping them get there. There's an excellent chance that that they'll say yes, and if not, they'll likely put you with somebody who fits what you need either way. So these mentors that help you build a lean plan and say, hey, this isn't you're going to start on January 1st. You want to do this, you start doing it today on August 15th. You don't wait 5 months. You get to work on the things that you have to get to work on. You file, your state license, you take your tests, you buy the study guide, you get a tutor, all these things to get yourself in a position to make that transition. It's not, you're not barriers, it's accomplishments that you need to stack.
Well, I can also add to that and say that if people are like, well, that's all well and good, but I don't have anybody in my life that can mentor me or has the time for that, I would say that to contact an organization called SCORE. What they are is basically a free nonprofit that has a bunch of seniors or people that are, in kind of more of the phase of their career where they're wanting to give back. And they matched you up based on what you're looking for. And I've utilized them several times. In fact, one guy that I got connected with is just an amazing music industry veteran. His name is Chris Stone. And actually he passed away in 2016, but he was the co-founder of the Record Plant, and he co-founded SPARS, which is the Society for Audio Recording Services. And he was amazing because he gave me one strategy for my business that changed everything. And that was, as a marketing person, that if I had, say, my capacity was 4 retainer-based clients and one of them went away, that's 25% of my business that goes away in one fell swoop, right? So what he said was, what if you had 2 retainer-based clients and you left the other 50% of your time open for project work? What that would do is it would bring you a lot of different people that you could work with, that you'd have way more work examples and way more people to give you referrals. And when I moved from stacking myself up and practically, being all in, which is a few clients, to leaving room to work with a ton of people, I really feel like that strategy he gave me was what set me up for success with my Glow marketing business. Because of all the company, if you look at my roster of companies that I've worked with and artists and stuff, it's impressive because I let myself stay open to that. Otherwise, it would just be maybe it would literally be like, a quarter of those people, because I would have just been locked down with certain clients for my whole career. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about valuing time, because it's easy to say you have to value your time. We've had several people on the show, but they've talked specifically, someone like Mark Schulman, who drums for Pink. That's a pinnacle drumming job. Pink can hire anybody she wants. And when Mark gives his price, he doesn't give the price to go on tour and drum. Like, that's common. Everybody kind of has an idea with that. He gives the price to be pulled away from his family for a summer while Pink tours. He's like, you're paying me. Yeah, of course I can drum. Of course I can manage the band and keep everybody cool because I'm the soul of the group. But you're really paying me to not see my daughters go to this play or this thing, because once you hire me, you hire all of me. And that value, it's easy to say, and Chandra, you must know what this feels like. It's easy to say yes to everything, and you're left with a bunch of crap clients who it's just not a good fit because you're so desperate to get a client. It's better to say, no, this is what I charge, and I charge this because this is all the value that I bring. These are all of the expert level tools I'm going to bring to your organization, and they cost this much money because this is what it's worth. And if it's not, then that's awesome. You should find a person who fits your budget. But that, oh my gosh, how hard is that lesson to learn?
Well, and the lesson that I perceive is behind that is whether you have a deep belief in abundance or if you have a scarcity mentality.
Right.
So if you have an abundant mentality, then by nature, you're going to say, oh, here's my rate. And if it's not a fit for you, that something that they'll go away, but that something else will naturally just come up instead that will be a fit. But if you have a scarcity mentality, then you think, I have to take that because I don't know when the next thing is going to come or if the next thing is going to come. And so I just have to take what I can get.
Yeah.
And so it's challenging because I have observed my own, levels of abundant versus scarcity mentality, thoughts going on. And I can definitely say that even now there's times when I get triggered when I'm approached with an opportunity and I'll think, well, I could just do this real quick, and everything. But from my experience, I've seen that when I have let opportunities go, that new ones have come up, and that it happens every time. I mean, I started Glow Marketing in January of 2000. So it's 19 years old. And I can tell you that what I have seen is that it always comes. It does. It might take a little bit longer than I want. And a great example of that was when my dad's wife passed away, that I felt called into service to help her transition in her, from this life. And it just dried up all my business. Like, I was so present for my family that I couldn't take on any more work. And I was so worried when after she passed away, that how long was it going to take me to get back on track, and how much ground had I lost, and all of that. And what I can tell you is that I probably spent about 6 months in that state. And then my last 6 months of the year, I earned more in that time than I did the entire year before that. Like, it somehow just made up for it. I don't understand it entirely. It's something with the universal forces, but the abundance came. And so I have seen time and again examples like that in my life, where when I haven't been able to work or I've had to close the door on an opportunity, that inevitably something else comes. And now it's my job to be honest with myself about whether it's a fit, whether it's authentic to me, whether it's time for that, or whether it's time for a new vision. And I'm constantly challenged with that. I mean, every single day I think about my own priorities and what I should be doing, whether I should be working on my own project or whether I should be helping somebody who's I'm either wanting to just help them personally, or they're paying me to support them in some way. And it's a constant time management problem. And really all we have is time. And if you undervalue your time, which I've done, okay, I'll be honest, I've undervalued my time a lot. I've learned the hard way that you're undercutting yourself. You're underselling yourself, and you have to then look at your own self-image and self-worth. It's very hard to look in that mirror sometimes, but it can really pay off when you do.
Well, it also gives you the opportunity to look where you need to develop. And really, again, it can be life. Like, I really need to spend more time under a bunch of weights and really get the benefit of working out. Pete Koch says, he's a co-host on the show all the time, 28 hours a month. So when you look at your value, that working out time, that's you showing everybody who believes in you that you're working hard at being what they believe in, and going out and doing it and understanding it. It's all right to struggle. It's all right to be uncomfortable too. How about that? Like, you talk about growth. Growth ain't comfortable. Getting under that weight bar and pushing it, that's not comfortable.
Well, they say no pain, no gain, right?
Exactly. I mean, I force myself on this show to take on topics that I find challenging for a number of reasons, whether it's intellectually challenging, or it challenges my preconceived notions, or it challenges what I think is wisdom. Because if I can't take that, how can I take the audience on the same journey? I'm denying them the same thing. So as long as I understand what I'm trying to do, at least in the abstract, then I can saddle up that show and go for a ride, and inevitably I grow from it, and my mind is blown repeatedly. And when you put your mind back together, it gets better each time as you reassemble all these thoughts. I mean, think about this, Chandra. Over 540 shows have been recorded for this. I think we're releasing 511 today. I've had my mind blown 550 times. So you have to find ways to grow, and it's a lot of work to blow your mind 500 times. It's a lot of work. I'll never get the actual money back for what I've put in, but it's such an investment in my well-being and the well-being of others around me. That's why people love the show, is because we're all going on this ride together. We're all bending our minds and stretching and doing things. That's what that transition, to me, that's what it means, is really finding a healthy way to push yourself and try new things and get a little uncomfortable, because it's I'd say it's not discomfort, it's miscomfort. It's a comfort you don't know yet, but you'll find out that, you are fast enough, you are strong enough to do whatever it is, as long as you have the ability to look at what you do and go, this is where I need to grow.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I really, when I was listening to you, I was thinking about being on a personal mission. And I think that there's people that are solopreneurs like us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we have this mission where we're going out, we're like, how can we grow ourselves, but also add value to other people's lives and help them grow? And, that's kind of our passion and our mission. And we're totally aligned to that. And I, like I said, you and I are tribesmen for that reason.
Right.
But there's also people out there who are really great at being part of teams. And so they might be in a band or they might work at a company. And it's okay that they find their own personal mission within somebody else's structure. You know what I mean? Like, I think for all the people who are out there, like, God, I love to, have that personal passion of having my own thing, but, really I'm at this job. And so how do I really feel good about what I'm doing? It's that within any organization, whether it's a band or a company, that everybody's needed. And so within your role, if you can go, well, what is my personal mission? How do I, support the rest of the group? And how do I serve our clients or customers at my highest level? And how do I add value? It's like they can come at it with the same attitude that we have as solopreneurs and be able to be, somebody that makes a difference. And because that's what we strive. I think a lot of people strive to do is feel like they have value and that this life has value.
Part of what all of us need, as established adults and young people too, especially, need to have some kind of charitable charter, but we all need some kind of way to give back, because we, at least in the United States, we all have plenty. Right. I mean, for the most part, everybody has something that they can give, whether it's their time, their money, their attention, their location, whatever it is. What do you advise, especially like your artists, that, like, look at what Gary Sinise does. That guy's incredible. It's not comfortable to do what he does, but he just pushes and pushes and pushes and helps and helps and helps. So what are your thoughts on charity and how to really push yourself to do more than you think you can? Because, there's people that you really can help.
There's especially influencers. Influencers are, people look up to them. And so, they are in a unique position to be able to influence a lot of people to do the same. I think that, what I guess I would recommend is just, this is an opportunity to do work that aligns to a personal passion. So like, if you love animals, you just absolutely, have a passion for animals, that you can go towards a charity or some kind of giving related to animals. Or if you're somebody who just loves being out in nature and gets off on the idea of a clean ocean, which I do as well, that they can, there's a lot of places, the Oceanic Society and in different places, Ocean Conservancy, different charities for that. So I think or working with children, music is, there's a lot of music related charities for music in schools and Music in Schools Today, Grammy organization has a lot of, so I think it really has to do with finding out, not just giving for giving's sake, which I think is also great, but if you're going to bring more to it if it's related to supporting something that that touches your heart in a special way.
Yeah. And I guess with that said, I should also say that we've recently partnered with Save the Brave. It's Scott Husing's charity, and what they do is they get veterans with PTSD and that just need some better memories, need some fellowship. They get them out and they go deep sea fishing. So if you guys are with me, that's a good way to support. On the website, you can go to the Save the Brave icon there, and you can either give one time, or what I recommend is just to subscribe. Just $5 a week, $20 a month, $50 a month, whatever it is, that little bit, it goes into helping these guys. So even if you don't have time or you're not sure what to do, hey, there's something you can do right there. Help out Save the Brave. These are people I know and trust. And, you guys know Scott, you hear him all the time on the show. Let me get back to Chandra and what we're talking about.
Oh, well, that's great, though. And I have to say that for as much, grief as Facebook's been getting from people, they've been doing a really good job with, aligning with charities, having people choose a charity for their birthday. I set a goal for a charity related to suicide prevention and exceeded my goal for my birthday last Sunday.
Yeah.
So like, I think that that's a really, I mean, think about if everybody did that,
Yeah.
how much would be generated from that. So being able to find these vehicles that are really easy for us to be involved with, where that didn't require a lot of my time. I, posted and kind of said something, personal about what, my life. I mean, my grandmother had a suicide intervention hotline coming into the house because she was a therapist and she spent her whole career supporting suicide intervention. And, so it has a personal, like even childhood connection for me. And so, and of course in the music industry, we've seen, the loss of so many amazing talents into this. So, it was highly supported as a result of me doing that. But I think that, we all have our spheres of influence. And so if we can leverage that, whether it's tools like Facebook or your personal time or your money, then for sure, just do what you can. Also, I wanted to mention one other thing, which is I did an interview with Pato Banton. He's a legendary, reggae artist. And he talked about this on a video interview that I have on my YouTube channel. And he basically said that you can start even in your own family or in your own community. And they do things like they'll open up, Sundays or something. They might have a little potluck where everybody from the neighborhood comes over. And in doing that, you find out, the 80-year-old lady down the street is on hospice. And so people are, going over and supporting in different ways. Or like you can just start within your own block. If you need to. And so that when people do that, everybody supporting their neighbors, even imagine how that ends up, being like this web of people doing that to that's really what One World is all about. One world, we're out there and we're doing what we can in our communities. And if everybody's doing that within their community, it's that tapestry that's woven together to create that one world.
We have a perception problem too with charity. Like, how many of us have an ongoing subscription for something, at least one something, if not several somethings, that we don't even use, the gym membership, whatever it's going to be. If you turn that $20 a month off and put it into Save the Brave or whatever your charity is going to be, you would already be doing more with something you don't even realize you're doing. But it's just, for whatever reason, we have a mental block there where we don't think about, I constantly need to be giving to something, whether it's charity on top, gift cards to your friends, like, hey, I thought about you, here's a $5 charity gift card, boom. And it can be all electronic. It's just a way of amplifying it. But anything, like, people want to, speaking of Facebook, people want to complain about Donald Trump, or they want to complain about whatever. Like, hey, anytime you put a rant up, force yourself to kick $20 out to someone who needs it. When you go by a homeless person, we're so shitty to people, right? Like, I've got cash in my pocket. I don't have a lot of money. I'm an artist. I don't make a lot of cash. But if I've got cash in my pocket, even if the person's not a veteran and they say I'm a veteran, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I correct myself and I say, hey man, how can I help you? Can I buy you a sandwich? Can I, what does it need? And if they just want the money, I just give it to them. Because what they don't have enough of? Everything.
Well, and compassion, I mean, Pato mentioned that too. He's like, he takes time to stop and talk to the homeless and say, what do you need? And look in their eyes and show them that somebody cares, and it's hard to do. I mean, I've been I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's a lot of homeless, and there's times when I have decided that there's no end to how much we can give. And so I have to check in with myself about what can I do? Right. And then I put some limitations on it. Like, for example, I might say, I have this much money and I'm going to do it all at the end of the year. And, it's, like everybody can pitch me their ideas and everything else. And then this is what I do. And then it's done. So I'm not necessarily all year long, just kind of like, giving out every time I walk by somebody. But at the same time, I know that the potential of what I have to give is ultimately given by the end of each year, So that's just an example of how we can feel like we don't have to live our life bleeding hearts, we have no time for ourselves, even because we're just helping everybody else. But like, be able to say, I'm giving I'm still giving. At the end of the day, I'm doing everything that I can.
Yeah.
And so I think everybody has to check in with themselves and decide what they are willing to do.
Yeah, and there's no end to the ideas. You really could just go down to the homeless area and say, I'm going to put $100 on account at that Subway across the street. Anybody who wants a sandwich, let me know. And then talk to the manager, but call me when you run out of $100. And I'll come down and put another $100 in there. And maybe you spend $800 that year, and maybe you can't afford 800. Maybe it's 300, whatever it is, right? You set an amount, just like there's free sandwiches over there whenever you guys are ready to eat. And
and that's your thing. That's what you've decided to do to support. And so if you have to, I guess my point was really like, if you do have to say no to some things, because you're going to have to say no to some things.
Let me be clear. I wasn't critiquing how you're approaching it. I'm just saying there's a lot of ways to do it. And now what I was going to say with like, I'm going to pay for sandwiches at that Subway. And if 25 people got up and started walking across the street, it'd shock the shit out of you. You'd be like, oh my God, there's 25 people about to go eat.
I just helped.
I better go get some more help because I want all 25 of these people to at least have a sandwich a day. A sandwich a day. New sponsor of the Break It Down show.
Right?
But I mean, it could be anything, right? If you can gather 10 people that will put $100 in at a time. Now there's a lot of people getting over there and getting sandwiches. And, some people are going to game the system. Who cares? I'd rather have the 98% that aren't gaming it, that need it, and give away a couple of extra bonus sandwiches that don't go to the right person. I don't care about that. I care about helping folks.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think about all my relationships and how to leverage those. If I'm working with a company and they're talking to me about wanting to do a marketing program, then I will build a charitable aspect around the promotional idea I'm pitching to them, because then I know that I'm supporting something through my relationships, because that company may have a way bigger, deeper pocket than I do personally, but I'm influencing them to rally behind something that will make a difference.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to try to do? Because I'm always looking for ways to put more time and effort into charity. Whenever I sign a new client, I'm going to say, here's my rate, and I'd love you guys to join me by donating X amount on top of this to this charity. And then that way, they at least have the opportunity to say, sort of like, point of sale charity stuff. I'm just going to say, here's your chance. I'm passionate about this. If you want to support me, and maybe I'll even take a smaller cut of what I get, and it'll go right into charity. So that's going to be my commitment.
Oh, I love your way of thinking. It's amazing. And just the fact that you're mindful about that and want to share ideas with your audience. I mean, inspire them to do it. I mean, I think that's the main thing, where you're using all of your available resources to inspire and get something done to make a difference.
Tell everybody where they can find you as a coach, because what you're talking about, Chandra, is really powerful. And I know there's folks out there, and it may not be this week, it may be 3 months from there. We're like, oh, who was that lady on the show? Hit me at Pete A. Turner, or I'll get you in contact with Chandra if you can't find her, or you can find Chandra at
glowliving.com. So GLOW living.com is the best resource, because I have tons of free information up there. I mean, I have blog articles that I've written, video interviews with people like Steve Vai and Pato that I mentioned, and Rosario that I mentioned, and Omar Hakim, and all these amazing Dave Aude. And, I've got these great resources up there. I've got a free resources area. And I also have some of my online courses that are linked up there, and I'm launching membership programs where people can connect with me on an ongoing basis, more like a group coaching setting.
Nice.
And so, there's a ton of good free resources at glowliving.com.
That's fantastic. We want Omar Hakim for the show, because we always say, if you want to consider who the best drummer in the world is, it's any song, any gig, any day, any time. That's who the best is. And I don't know that anybody is better than Omar Hakim at that. Like, if you take all of the limits off and say, I need a drummer right now to play this song, he's, you can pick whoever you want, but it's hard to top Omar Hakim.
Oh, well, I can definitely arrange that. And I also invite you guys to watch my interview. I interviewed him live on stage at the NAMM show, and they were kind enough to provide me the video. So I think it's over an hour. And it's also with his wife, Rachel Z, who was on tour as a keyboard player for for Peter Gabriel. I mean, she's amazing in her own right. And so they give a lot of advice to musicians on how to make it in that video. I would say that your interview about his life and things like that would if you watch that, you could just add so much to it through your interviewing style.
That sounds perfect.
For sure, check that out, and we can talk after the interview about how to connect you with him.
This is Chandra Lynn, everybody, and seriously, if you guys are thinking about trying to tighten up your ship, even if you're not going to change your job, and you just want to get some perspective, this is someone you should talk to. And really, every time Chandra and I get on the phone together, we have these long conversations. I'm like, hey, I'm going to drive to San Diego. And the next thing I know, I'm in San Diego. And we spent 2 hours. And I just get so much out of it. So I hope you all have enjoyed her like I have. Chandra, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to meet your audience and see what I can do to help them. And I really hope to hear from them. And they can actually email me too at chandra@glowliving.com.